Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency for December 10th, 2025. First item of business is privilege of the floor. I have one blue card. If anybody else wishes to fill one out, you can, and I'm not aware of anybody online, but is there anybody? No. Okay. So Teresa Alt, please come forward.
Hello, I'm Teresa Alt, 206 Eddy Street, College Town, City of Ithaca. And I don't have a prepared statement at all today. I just wanted to say that yesterday I attended the Housing Committee meeting and was quite impressed. I think especially David West of the county is going to be doing terrific work for you. So wait for some good and interesting results.
Hey, thank you. Great. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the IDA? Okay. We will then proceed. Are there any additions to the agenda? And I believe there is one item. Kelly?
Yes, there is. The Finance Committee met on Monday and made a recommendation allowing the transfer of funds, so we'll discuss that during the staff report.
Okay. We can proceed to business. Our first item is the Newfield Solar Project, and we have received an application. Are there any representatives from the developer here with us?
Yes, they are online due to weather in Syracuse and surrounding areas not being conducive to getting to Ithaca today. We have Mike Ferteschi from TCIDA Clean Energy. They are the developer. Ron Glandian from Kendall Sustainable Infrastructure, who will be the long-term owner and operator. Joel Canella from Green Spark Solar, one of the contractors. Anthony D'Ambra from Green Spark Solar, and Scott Abbott from Green Spark Solar, my apologies. This is a 5 megawatt project in the town of Newfield, and they are requesting a pilot for tax certainty and sales tax and use incentives. Today we will have 2 actions for the board. The first is to accept the application as completed and to move this project on to a public hearing. And with that, I will turn it over to Michael and his team.
Yes, before you get there though, I realize I didn't mention Jeff Gorski has an out-of-town conference and so is excused from the meeting today. Well, to our guests, welcome and please proceed.
Thank you very much. And like Kelly said, I do apologize for not being there today. I had intended on being there in person, but the Syracuse weather had other plans. So I will try to get there at a future meeting. We're here today to present the Newfield Solar Farm on Millard Hill Road. It's a 5 megawatt AC facility utilizing single axis trackers, and it's 2 subarrays. One is 8 acres inside and the other is 23 acres. The total parcel is about 128 acres, and our landowner actually lives on the same parcel. It's a pretty simple site. There's no tree clearing included. Hunting was a very important part of our landowner's future, and so as a part of that, we avoided any tree clearing with the project. And there's pretty minor landscaping on the north end of the facility to screen against the Millard Hill residents. We are looking to employ sheep grazing for vegetative management on this project, and we've been in conversation with United Agrivoltaics, who is local to Ithaca. We've been working with Caleb Scott on employing that facility on the project. And the project is in advanced stages. We've received site plan approval and as well as our seeker neg deck at the beginning of October. We're currently going through crossing agreement with a transmission line and gas main on the project site, but most of our other permits are settled and completed at this point. I am here today, myself with TCIDA Clean Energy as a developer. I'm with KSI, Kendall Sustainable Infrastructure, with Ron Glandian. They are the ultimate owner-operator of the facility, and several members from Green Spark Solar, who are a Rochester-based contractor, who are slated to build this project. I'm also here with Rob Panache from Young Summer, who is our counsel. And I did want to open the floor to Green Spark as an introduction. I know there can be some questions even on the labor side of things. And Joel Canella is in the facility with you today. So if Joel doesn't mind giving an introduction, I think it'll be valuable for the board.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I know.
Yeah, you do need to speak into the microphone.
Hi. My name is Joel Canella. I work with GreenSpark Solar. GreenSpark Solar is a company that's been building these projects for 22 years, and we have really strong partnerships, and we always follow through. And in the interest of this particular project, I know using local labor for the 3 disciplines is a very important thing, and want to assure everyone that we commonly do utilize union labor across the board. Our partners are pull from halls across the state. Our biggest one is Schuler Haas and Hewitt Young, and I just wanted to assure everyone that this is a very local operation. We've been in Rochester for a number of years consecutively, so long-standing history building in this area. So I know that was important to Michael and Ron from KSI.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Joel. That's a brief overview of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions on it, and we're looking forward to working with the board through this process.
Okay. Any questions from the committee members? I'd say I read through the application. It seemed complete and straightforward. It looks like you've done your homework. So if there aren't any further questions or comments, why don't we proceed to accept the application? Could I get a motion? Todd moves. Duxon seconds. I'll do that on a hand vote. All those in favor? Okay. And then our second item is to send this to public hearing, I believe. Todd moves to send it to public hearing. Jerry seconds. Discussion. Okay, I think we're ready to vote. I'll call the roll on that. Duxon?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that will get scheduled, and then it should come back here to the new IDA next year. So that's an exciting thing. Okay, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
And then the next item is Yellow Barn Solar. And Kelly, do you want to introduce that one?
Yes. With you today, you have an updated benefit memo, which includes the incentive calculator. We had to wait for a bit to finalize that, just based on a lot of moving parts with the towns and their council, and also Yellow Barn, and an updated authorizing resolution to include seeker language that was necessary. So today, we will be looking for a final vote on this if the board so deems they're ready to do that. The public hearing was held. The notice is included along with the minutes, as are the HCA terms from the town's council. And additionally, a separate item is a memorandum of understanding with the IDA and Development Corp for funds for economic development support for the towns, which we can get to that after the initial review of the project. And I'd invite Zoe to come up to the table. We have Zoe Yang from Lydian Energy. They are the long-term owners. And online, we also have Ian Moskal from Lydian Energy, and Rob Panashi is also counsel for them as well.
Yeah, happy
Welcome.
to be back.
Yeah, is there
I
anything
hope you're giving a volume discount.
He just targeted Tompkins County.
Okay. Is there anything you want to share with us?
No, I'm happy to be back. I know it's been a long process coming, so we're really excited to get this wrapped up. And I can do a quick background on the project, just as a refresher, Yellow Barn Solar is a 160 megawatt AC project in the towns of Groton and Lansing. And we are wrapping up development and looking to start construction at the end of, beginning of fall next year.
Okay. Questions from any of the board members? I do have one item I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear with, and we talked about this before. Kelly and I went out and met with the town supervisors a few weeks ago, and we talked about how this project could move forward, and we made an agreement with the towns that if they were okay with the project, we would take a certain portion of our fee and dedicate it to potential economic development projects in the towns of Lansing and Groton. I consider that those two decisions are tied. So I just want to sound out the committee. Does anybody have any issue with proceeding on that basis? We're going to take two votes, but it's...
I do have a question.
Sure.
For how long are we going to hold those funds?
3 years. 3 years.
3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. And certainly if no project comes forward in that time, the money would just be used for economic development in some other way. But
And how much did we commit?
$500,000.
Okay.
So it's a substantial amount, but it's what we're set up to do, and I thought it was a good resolution to get us to the finish line on this project.
And how much is our fee?
The fee is 1% all in, so that includes the admin fee and legal expenses. Because this is a utility scale project, it's different than our typical community solar projects. So that's what the agreed
Is there an
fee is.
amount so I can calculate how big a chunk that $500,000 is?
Yes, so it's 1% of the project cost.
Kelly, I have the number. I
Okay.
think it's around 4.1 million, 4.1 to 4.2.
That's our fee?
Well, and that includes legal fees as well.
Right, okay. Thank you.
No.
Out of curiosity, what are legal fees out of that?
Right now, Russ, do you have a ballpark of where you're sitting at?
Yeah, we typically price these deals given the amount of work that goes into them, obviously, along with, the opinion exposure that we have, coupled with this host benefit structure as, 1/3 of the total 1%. So it's a significant fee.
It's a good,
1/3 of $4 million?
Correct.
Yes.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a
We've
lot of
been
work,
working on
and
this
then frankly, there's a lot of exposure to, for us in delivering the opinion. So that's typically how these energy projects are structured, across the state for the industrial scale projects.
Do you insure for your opinion?
Well, we have malpractice insurance, of course.
Sure, okay.
Yeah. Todd?
Yeah, well, I'm going to thank Rich and Kelly for coming up with this, meeting with the people there in the towns and coming up with this. I think it's definitely a good faith and shows a lot to the community. Thank you. I think I'll definitely be supporting that.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Okay.
It has been a lot of work, a long time coming, so to actually be here is very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I would note this is the first industrial scale solar project that's been done in Tompkins County, and so it's new. It has been a longer road than we anticipated, but it's good to get to this moment. So at any rate, we are at a point I think we can put this on the floor. Is there a motion? Okay. Todd moves, Jerry seconds. Further discussion? I guess I don't mean to talk too much at this meeting, but I will say that the industrial level solar really presents a different aspect, and this was part of the discussion with the town supervisors, in that there's so much acreage involved that it has real impacts on the agricultural character of these towns. And the discussion we had about that was it still makes economic sense, but going forward, there really is a necessity to look at the towns from a planning standpoint and to see what impacts it will have and how can the town adapt and change. And the host community agreement, which New York State has required us to them to negotiate, is really set up to help them do that. And I think those processes will commence in the towns going forward. And so we'll see where all that goes. But it's a big thing. Yeah. Anybody else? Are we ready to vote? I'll call the roll. Duxon?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. And as I said, we have two decisions to make today. The second one, pardon me for 1 second.
Page 38.
Thank you. There's a memorandum of understanding on page 38. And this is the agreement that we came to designate a portion of our fee for economic development in the towns of Groton and Lansing as may come forward. So it really puts some incentive out there for the towns or other players to come forward and say, here is how we think this money could be used. And if it isn't used within 3 years, we can apply it elsewhere for economic development. Could I get a motion to put it on the floor? Todd moves. Duxon seconds. Thank you. Discussion. Greg?
Do we typically get like a fee breakdown or anything like that with these projects?
How so?
Like what the fee goes to that we collect?
It goes into the checking account.
Yeah, but then it seems like there's some pretty big checks that get written. This would be one of them, and then there's other expenses. I'm curious for transparency as we collect these funds and fees, if we should be getting some sort of fee statement so that we can look holistically, right? This is a $500,000 chunk of the fee. And to Deborah's earlier comment of like what percentage of the fee that is, or how much of the fee that, that would be, personally, I think it would be helpful to see holistically what these project fees are going to. I mean, the fact that it's a 1
Don't we
point.
get regular financial reports?
Right, we do the quarterly financial reports, but with this specific MOU, these projects or project requests would come to you for approval. So you're not just going to write a check for $500,000 to the towns.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand. Maybe it's a different point of clarification for a different agenda topic in the meeting.
Greg, are you saying you'd like to understand what is our fee after legal fees are?
Well, yeah, I'd like to
taken
understand our fees while we're approving projects, right? Because
Yeah.
If certain projects are priced differently, again, the first time I've heard it's a $1.3 million legal expense for a project like this is jarring.
Rich, if I may, quickly, if that's
go
okay.
ahead, Russ.
Yeah, so this is obviously the largest scale project that's been done in Tompkins County. And initially, the fee that the IDA was going to collect was based upon the smaller projects, 1/2 of 1%. And so in having discussions, I suggested that why don't we structure it like other IDAs are doing, such that we would get a nice fee based upon the work and the opinion exposure, as well as the IDA would get much more than the 1/2 of a 1%, as well as the developer knowing all in what the costs are associated with the project. So our typical fee structure is set forth in the application and is known at the outset to the developers, and we never, very rarely, the only time I can think of is the Arrowhead litigation, have we ever billed the IDA for any work. So this is being paid for directly by the developer and not the IDA. And again, the 50 basis point fee that you're accustomed to getting on solar is now significantly higher. based upon what the industry's, standards are. If that helps.
It's good context. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Are we ready to vote on the memorandum of understanding? Okay, I'll call the roll. Duxon?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that money will be received and held, and hopefully there'll be a good project coming out of it. So, good. All right. Next up is the IAED 2026 work plan presentation, and I believe Kurt Anderson is with us.
He is, yes.
Yeah, welcome. Please come forward.
Lost in my ears. 20. You already see I made a typo on the first slide. I'm off to a great start. What year is this? Thank you. I'm Kurt Anderson, Director of Operations. I know all of you. And this is our draft 2026 work plan. I'll make that change as soon as I leave. We were set to present this work plan to the HED committee last week, ran out of time, so we had an open discussion. You'll have it today as a valued partner, and the board of directors will receive the same presentation tomorrow. Kelly's going to take it from here. I'm just kidding.
Is this a cameo, Kurt?
It's a PDF. Yeah, yep. Well, it's no surprise to anyone, we're going through a transition year at IAED. We, however, though smaller in staff, have the same great vision and mission. The basic premise is to support business employment and improve the economic condition for everyone in the county. That's a very overarching term for the work that we do, but it's a lot of the nuts and bolts that you're going to hear about in a second that we do that actually make those things happen. We are the economic development organization for Ithaca, Tompkins County. We're the only accredited EDO in the state of New York, one of only 75 in North America. Our sector focus really are what we call traded sectors, and you see the list there. Kelly, if you scroll down to the next page. Those sectors largely are those that bring outside money into the local economy, right? So that's not to say they don't sell goods or services locally, but predominantly they're sold elsewhere or attract outside money into the county. And that way we don't compete with the chamber, we don't compete with local businesses or outcompete those things. We're kind of bigger picture focused externally. And the map here kind of just demonstrates our reach. So that's 20 different states from which we draw money. And what you don't see on this map is the United Kingdom and British Columbia as well. So we've got quite a large reach in our little staff, in our little neck of the woods. Next slide, Kelly. We're going to hover on this one for a second because it begs repeating. IAED operates in 3 strategic pillars: direct services to businesses, workforce development, and what we call economic development leadership. The 2026 work plan is going to follow the same structure. Pretty much everything we do follows that same structure. Everything's in those 3 pillars. In those 3 pillars are listed core activities and then some special projects that kind of rise above the everyday work that we do. The goal of this work plan, as opposed to previous years, really was to keep it simple. We've got a new president starting January the 5th. We certainly know that there are things that need to be done, but we tried not to overcomplicate it or assign ourselves to work that maybe was beyond our capacity, particularly onboarding someone of such a position, or maybe he's got a different direction that we want to go, right? So we kept it simple this year and plan to at least hit these marks, but if not exceed them, but it may be something entirely different that we can't participate or can't anticipate at this second. Kelly, next up.
Bit of a delay. Sorry.
It's okay. I just can't send a 70 megabyte presentation. Direct services to businesses really is our bread and butter, right? So these are our core activities, and I'll highlight a few. One, as you know, we administer on behalf of the county, the IDA, and the DC. We also have a revolving loan fund that's predominantly for gap financing, last money in, first money out, higher risk. You know, we fill a gap that traditional lenders that don't fill. The basic underlying feature of this entire program is what you'd call BRNE, business retention and expansion, and that all boils down to relationships with businesses, finding out what their needs are, what keeps them up at night, and then trying to connect them to the resources they need to succeed, right? So whether that be IDA incentives or whether that be the revolving loan fund or any grant program, it's knowing what businesses need and then connecting them to those resources. This really was the only tenet that IED had when founded in 1964, and it stays strong today. Moving on to special projects, a couple are carryovers for last year, though they've taken a little bit different shape. The first one being the semiconductor cluster. No surprise, semiconductors are coming to New York. What's not been determined yet is what our role is in that supply chain, right? So we've got studies going on regionally that say, yep, we need this square footage and this access to highways. Well, right off the bat, we don't have the access to those highways, right? So throw that out the window, right? But we are well positioned to participate, and one of the projects we intend to do this year is to really inventory our assets and how we fit, to identify how we fit and make progress toward fitting in. Instead of just saying, we're just like Binghamton or just like Syracuse. We're not, we're different. And that rose up to the cream rose to the top last year when we hosted the Go Semi event, and we really did a deep dive as a community into where we think we are, and it's our role now at IAD to take that to the next step, to actually inventory that and make a game plan for doing something about it. Second one is Southworks. You're all familiar on this panel with Southworks. We've helped in a variety of different ways, grant administration. We're kind of their support arm, where we can go after and or administer funds that they don't have access to. We continue to do that. There's a couple percolating this year that we will be their grant administrator if it works out. One other thing is that as an EDO, we actually get funding from NYSEG to work on community development marketing. And the Southworks marketing plan was listed as one of our priorities in that grant proposal a year and a half ago. So we've accomplished the three other things in that proposal, and we've got a chunk of change setting aside to work with Southworks to actually put together a comprehensive plan. They're on a shoestring budget. We've got support to actually put that together into a compelling case that we can use to sell to attract business and or tenants. So, and then the last one in the special projects is one that Kelly's been doing every year, really since she came here, and that's community roundtables with lenders and referral partners, et cetera, right? To make sure that the community is more informed about the financing options or succession planning options that are out there and where we fit into those things. So that's, again, part of that relationship building in the community that is the core tenet of our direct services. Workforce development, relatively new pillar for us. This is our second pillar of the last couple years. We're growing in that. Todd works closely with us on that. The principal part of this really is to work with stakeholders. You know, we identified with help from the legislature and other members of the community a couple years ago that really there's an important role for EDOs like IED to play in the workforce sphere, and we stepped into that. But it's all done in collaboration with the Workforce Development Board, with our business partners, whether it be manufacturing or construction. It's not just us alone, but we have a unique niche. And the important part to mention is that second bullet that you see there is that our workforce programs are industry driven. So I get asked a lot, you know, what's the difference between Workforce Development Board and workforce that IED does? And the primary difference is that, well, workforce development gets federal funding. It's their job to distribute that funding, but predominantly their work is applicant driven. You walk in off the street, express interest, it's their job to put you in touch with the resources for you to follow that dream or the career path that you want. Ours is kind of on the other side, where it's driven by industry. We work with our manufacturing partners and our construction trade partners and say, okay, what are the core or the basic functions that you need? And then what's the impediment to getting folks into those positions? And then we work to address those things. So it's less applicant driven, more industry driven. You tell us what you need and we work towards getting that. Next one, Kelly. I've referenced the two industry partnerships that we run. One direct to work, that's the manufacturing program. The other being Tompkins Build, which is for construction trades. We intend to do at least one of each. The work grant that we received a couple years ago, $1.5 million to actually get this thing launched, is expiring at the end of September or October of this year.
This year or next year?
What year are we in? Of 26. So we've got just under 1 year. We know by timing of the trades, we're going to do one of those. Actually, graduation for the existing cohort is Friday of this week. And then we're ramping up recruiting to start another cohort in February of next year. The goal being we'll do manufacturing in the summer, and we'll get at least one cohort of each under the radar of the grant. We would like to do another Tompkins Build cohort, realizing that there's a very high demand in the construction trades, and we're working on some other funding mechanisms for that as we speak. So critical to both of those things, though, and you've kind of picked up on this, is that when the grant expires, we need to find other solutions for funding, and we're working on those. Some of those come through Southworks. There's other grant opportunities that we're working on. One of the things that we're tasked with is finding a sustainable model to deliver industry-driven workforce for 26 and beyond. Next one. Oh, we're already there. Economic development leadership is all other duties as assigned. That's the catch-all bucket for the work that we do. Top of the list there is the economic development strategy. So we work on actually creating that strategy and then implementing that strategy. That's also included in special projects, and I'll explain that in a second. Some of the other work, actually the reason I came on board was to do economic and labor data. We maintain a repository of data that is super nerdy, but it is very helpful with grant applications and actually directing the work that we do. The other things are really external, and it's tough to quantify the work that's done, but it's a lot of local, regional, state level partnerships, and then conveying the needs of business in our community to elected officials. Special projects and leadership, as I mentioned, is the economic development strategy. It's getting that over the finish line. We're at the 1 yard line right now. There's a little bit of fine tuning that needs to be done. It was decided we would do that when the new president comes in. And actually that's gonna be a good opportunity for him to kind of get a peek at how the sausage is made before we start eating. So it's finishing that project this year. Infrastructure continues to be a focus for us. So our fiber broadband project, which was a heavy lift in COVID and still is the last fiber project standing. You know, the state was all in on fiber and then they pulled their money back. This county experienced that, and now it's all Wi-Fi. Ours is a big old fiber project, 56 miles, all the other ancillary benefits to community, to underserved households, et cetera. Ours is still standing and ready to go. So it's finishing that in 2026. Also would be water and sewer. Actually was just on a webinar earlier regarding this there's another tranche of funding for the countywide infrastructure funding. So it's infrastructuring sites and or addressing pinch points in our water and sewer system. We at IED, with help of TG Miller, do the decadal water and sewer update. In that, we've identified several low-hanging fruit that would make a huge difference on capacity for development. There's some fear locally that we're reaching our breaking point. We're gonna have to turn projects away because we don't have water and sewer capacity. So that is a focus of ours. It is included in the economic development strategy, which I expect you'll see shortly, the goal being first quarter, but at least first half of next year. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we're the only accredited EDO in New York State. And that may not sound like a lot, but it's a big deal. In our industry, it's a huge deal. Maintaining that accreditation, we are First received that in 2020, we re-upped in 2023, and in February of 26, we're up again. And this time it comes with a full site visit, full look at the books. We're prepared to do that. Ina and I led that charge in 23, and we'll do it again in 26 to maintain that accreditation and that standing in this industry.
What does that do for us?
Locally?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't bring any money, I'll say that. But it's a stamp, you know, as any certification would be in any industry, that you are at the top of your business and that you've been audited externally. They're looking at the work you do, how financially responsible you are, how sustainable you are, your leadership, your role in the community. I mean, they do a pretty broad-based investigation. So it really is just it's a check that we're doing the right things is what it is, and just a level of credibility.
Thank you.
26 goals is a subset of our 5-year investment initiative. So we're in our third 5-year initiative, and 26 will be the third year of the current 5-year initiative. So we're pretty much going to be right in the middle. These are a subset of that 5-year, so it's an average of the 5 years that you see in front of you. There's a little bit of work to do on workforce, particularly if we only run 2 cohorts. Again, the goal is being 3, but we may have to increase cohort size, and with that comes increased costs as well. But largely, we hit all our marks in the first category, direct services. Workforce, we're on track. Again, there'll be some challenges this year. And then we fell off last year in economic development leadership just by luck, and was renewable energy. By your vote just moments ago, it sounds like we're gonna get that. Oh, actually, that'll count in 25. So we'll move that back. but in any event, we've got work to do on MWBE, solicitation and encouragement, some of the other community benefits that are listed in there. But we're in good shape, and we've got a capable staff that can handle that as well. And kind of underlying all 3 strategic pillars is community awareness, right? So we've got a comprehensive communications and marketing strategy that we use. We use our website, social medias, newsletters. We've got investor events. It's really communicating the work that we do, that you at the IDA and the DC do. There'll be a press release out next week regarding the Town Gown Award. Really, it's to spread the word of what economic development is. And Greg gave me a good tip a while ago. It's not just talking about, I'm trying to incorporate this. It's not just what economic development is why does it matter, right? What do people need to know? What's their value, their return on investment? So it's trying to use our platform to kind of convey that message of the work that we do. It won't solve all the questions, as you know, but we're trying to do our part. And then part of the other thing really is being out and about. You know, we're thought and process leaders, so we go to these conferences and we take information back home, right, and spread that love that we get from EDC or New York State Economic Development Council, International Economic Development Council. Lots of acronyms, they're all vowels. So it's really to bring that information home and try to apply that here. So it's community awareness underneath all of them. And as I mentioned earlier, we got a new president starting. Unfortunately, we have the same name. We're still trying.
The same beard.
Still trying to work that out. He'll actually be here in town today through Friday or Saturday. You may see him around. He'll be at business after hours tonight. He'll be at our board meeting tomorrow. Tompkins Build graduation on Friday. He's eager to start, and we're eager to have his assistance. For 9 months, we've held down the boat with 4 people, and we could use some assistance. But we're a great staff of 5 that really all get along, and you know, Kurt will add a new element to that mix, but we'll find a way to have fun and do good work. And I will say to his credentials, many of you were involved in the hiring process or you meet him, but he comes with a laundry list of experience. He worked for the Oklahoma Chamber, which is the largest chamber in the country, economic development in northern Louisiana. He's in Delaware now working for the governor. His dad was an Army chaplain, so he has carried that throughout his life and traveled all over. And that type of information and experience is going to be really helpful for us too. And he's got a real positive attitude, which, at least one Kurt does. But that's the gist of it. Again, we're trying to keep it basic. We're trying to continue to do the important things that we've recognized need to be done, but kind of leave it open for Kurt to help us identify new things and take us in a new direction. And I expect he'll be in front of you introducing himself at some point too. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Deborah.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt. My understanding of economic development might be idiosyncratic, but to me, the reason we want economic development is because we want good jobs. And workforce development is a big piece of that. Annie and I started pushing IAED to put more effort into workforce development our first year on the legislature, and we haven't really stopped. So I'm hoping that with this new leadership, IAED will focus more on workforce development. It's concerning to me, we heard in HED that the direct-to-work program kind of got derailed this year because there wasn't enough interest from potential employers, and I'm finding that hard to square with the presentation that Christopher Spahn gave us about how there aren't enough workers to fill the jobs that people have. Do you have any thoughts on those two things? Just seem to be inconsistent. What is your take on that inconsistency?
Well, I can't speak for Chris. I did listen to his presentation or the data that he presents, but as I mentioned earlier, ours is industry driven. So we have those relationships with the HR and the training directors, and we match the skills and training to what they need. The issue with this last year, 25, which we're concerned about going into 2026, no doubt, was of the 9 participating manufacturers, 4 said, we support the program, but we're not going to hire. We're not hiring. We're concerned about the economic impacts of these tariffs, of the federal level.
So people are just afraid.
Yeah, I think there's some hesitancy at the employment level, and because our job is to serve the industry, I mean, it'd be kind of just going through the motions if there actually wasn't a job on the other end. And that's one of the things that we guarantee through our programs is not necessarily a job or a career. It's the opportunity to get exposed to the careers that are available, to get you trained in those things, and then get you an interview, right? And through the whole process to make introductions to the folks who do the hiring. So it's kind of, I already know you, right? And if they're telling us they're not going to hire them, then why do it?
Yeah.
Right? And we're fooling the applicants and the participants, and that's certainly not good for everybody or anybody. But I will say on the disappointed and worried, yes, about manufacturing, very bullish about construction trades. There is a need. Our partners are eager and willing. It's happening, and I think there's a lot of funding that's going to come for that specifically. So.
To that.
Maybe not done, but changing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could follow up on that, it seemed like there was real interest in that program, the direct to apprenticeship trades side of it. And you say that you came and talked to us, I think, about how many people participated and how many slots you had. I know it was really oversubscribed. There was great interest. What would it cost to amp that up and to open a lot more slots?
The dollar value I can't give you on scalar dollar value. I'll say this. Mira's done a fabulous job of going back. We've only been in the workforce game for just a couple of years, but we've been tracking it diligently for federal reporting. It costs us $184,000 per cohort.
Per cohort.
Per cohort. That's 15 graduates. It's a lot of money to pay the student, the instructors, the materials. It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
Do the employers kick in anything?
Well, so we talk about sustainable funding. The idea was that we would float it for a period of time and show you, the employer, the value of this program. And among other sources, say, hey, okay, I'm going to use the term pay to play, but that's, if you're able to support the program, then we certainly would welcome that. And I think that's going to be part of our diversification of funding in 2026 as one source, not the only thing where if you don't support us, we don't help you. That's not the case. There are other sources. In fact, we got our first corporate sponsorship this last year, which paid the bills for the location that we're using on the West End. That's through LaChase Construction. So there's those opportunities as well. There's grants. If we scaled from 15 to 20, I couldn't exactly say that off the top of my head, but the idea is we're going to need to do that to meet demand and to capture this eager workforce that wants to do it. That's right there. We just currently only have 15 seats.
Yeah, and I guess I'd like to talk to my IDA colleagues that will be continuing that we have resources sitting here in our IDA, and I see we've lost Russ, but I was going to ask him directly, is this something where we could apply IDA fund balance?
You didn't lose me, but.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
This seems to be dead on with what we would hope to see happen. We support large projects in our community when we build tax base, and there's jobs coming from that, but we've also had lots of discussion about the things we do, such as, say, supporting the farmer's market or the commercial kitchen, that are kind of driving from the bottom up. And this is a great example of that. I would love to see if we could help amp up the cohort and push through more, potential tradespeople. We need them, and it was a real shame to me that there were so many people who wanted to give this a try and there just wasn't the openings. Is this something we can help do, Russ, with our cash?
Yeah, and yes, it is. And if, I've been unclear in the past as to what the IDA can and cannot do with its money. I apologize. And part of the reason we came up with the administrative agreement between the IDA and the LDC for the Yellow Barn investment into the towns, which I suggested that it go to the LDC so you guys can maintain control of it. They do have a little bit more flexibility. But really, the IDA is only limited on its investment of money, basically into treasuries, and it cannot loan or give money away. You can expend money for economic development purposes, job creation, and this certainly sounds like it falls within your authorized uses of monies, and sounds like a good thing to consider.
Okay. Well, I sure hope you guys consider that after my passing along. This would be a really good thing, I think, for the IDA to think about. Okay. Further questions for Kurt? Todd.
I just want to make some comments out there. Kurt, since you've been here, the stuff you've done has just been amazing. You're a great voice for the community and for the businesses, and I think the world of the stuff that you've done, it speaks volumes of you.
I appreciate that, Todd. Point of order, though, it's everybody around me, too. I want to be very clear. I've worked a lot on local labor as it pertains to IDA labor policy, but Mira carries the ball. Danny started it. Mira carries it. Ina helps with bookkeeping. Kelly keeps us all sane. It takes a village, and to share the love. We had initially intended to run two construction trades, two different tracks at the same time. One, the union side, and the other non-union through TST BOCES. And due to whatever reason, TST BOCES just said, we're not interested, we're not ready to do that. And I said, all right, well, we're going to work with those who want to work with us. And the union side, all the reps on the Building Trades Council have been our most ardent supporters, and we really appreciate that. You can only work with the folks who really want to work with you, and you all have made it very clear that you want to work with us, and we're trying to serve you and the employers.
Okay. Duxon.
I guess this is as good a time as any to bring this up. I was going to say it's at the end, but just because we're talking about staffing and stuff, I just want to shout out that Kelly has really stepped up this year after, pretty quick transition and being thrust in this position, and I really appreciate the effort that you've put into it.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you that I just did her supervisor review this morning, and my sentiments are very much in line with yours. Kelly doesn't know that. She doesn't know that yet.
We'd like to keep her.
Time to go into executive
I
session.
think one of the things we did in 25, probably the most important thing that sets the stage for 26 and beyond is the 4 staff members we have, and 1 incoming, of course, there'll be transition and change with a new personality, of course, but we shored up the team, and everybody's pulling weight in the same direction, and I think that shows externally. And the comments that you make go back to that kind of growing pain that we went through in 25, but I think the attitudes are right, the spirit is there, and you know, I truly believe, though often a pessimist, I do believe that when those elements are together in the right place at the right time, anything is possible. And I think good things are ahead for IAD and the IDA and this entire community.
Okay. All right. We do need to keep going. We got more to do. But thank you so much for coming in and talking with us.
Thank you for your support.
Okay. Moving on, I would note that the Governance Committee had a special meeting just before this meeting. It was thrilling. And we considered 2 policies that are now, that were passed by the Governance Committee are now before us. The first is the TCIDA FOIL policy. And Kelly, would you like to introduce that?
Sure. So over the summer, we attended the IDA Academy, and it was recommended by the ABO, the Authorities Budget Office from the state, that each IDA has its own FOIL policy. Up until now, the TCIDA has been utilizing the policy of the county. And so I worked with Russ and his team to develop a FOIL policy specific to the Tompkins County IDA. And as Rich said, the Governance Committee met and recommend moving this forward to the full board.
Okay. Questions, comments? Could I get a motion to put the FOIL policy? Deborah moves.
I'll second.
Jerry seconds. Discussion. As Kelly indicated, Russ brought it forward to us. This is being used throughout the state by IDAs. So it seems
And
like
it's fairly consistent with the county's policy.
Yes, and it is consistent with what we have been operating under as it is. So.
Yeah, and the short of it, Rich, is, you know, FOIL's not something you can lay a policy over. You've got to comply with it. It's a state mandate. So it's just the ABO would like to have each IDA to have their own policy, which is what you have now.
Yeah. We want a happy ABO.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. I'll call the roll. Duxon?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. And then we have an enhanced incentive policy. And Kelly, would you like to introduce that?
Sure. So previously, the IDA had an enhanced energy incentive policy, and as of the end of this year, that policy is obsolete based on dates that were contained within that policy. So the Governance Committee had 2 meetings to review changes to an enhanced incentive policy, kind of broadening the scope of this policy for incentives. And this includes energy, new construction, on-site childcare considerations, the establishment and/or improvement of infrastructure, site remediation, financial need, and any other factors that the board would want to consider for incentive, for possibly going above and beyond with incentive. So you have both the red line former policy and then the new policy for consideration that is recommended by the Governance Committee. I will say that on page 54, so the second page of the red line copy, if you want to take a look there, the first paragraph, there will be an edit to the verbiage there. It states, in determining whether to provide a qualifying project with the enhanced incentive as set forth below, the board shall consider one or more of the following factors. So that change to the language will be amended.
As I said, the Governance Committee added value. If I could get a motion to put it on the floor. Duxon moves, Deborah seconds. Questions, discussion, comment? I have one. I think this is a significant change in our thinking. This has been just an energy policy, and it was driven by whether a developer was meeting the current policy or what was going to come into effect in 2025. We've now reached 2025, so it really didn't apply anymore. And the discussion we had at the governance committee was perhaps it's time to really consider other factors that we really do want to look at, like childcare. But it also could apply to projects that we've considered and approved and are completely stalled. You know, and we've had discussion about how do we see if there's a way to help push things forward. It provides the IDA with more discretion, which is, you know, a double-edged sword. You have to be careful how you exercise discretion, but you also want the economic development to happen. And this policy, I think, moves the IDA in that direction. So, you know, there is a change of thinking underneath all this. I think it's a good development, but you should all just be aware.
This is just a work in progress, right? Trying to get something.
Well, it's going to give future IDAs more authority to look at a project and say, the standard incentive is X, but we're willing to do Y because you're doing these things. And we did this just recently with the Town of Caroline Solar Project, where you looked at all of the infrastructure development that they had to do that was above and beyond, and it justified us giving a different incentive in that case. This is sort of codifying that.
Can we add something in there too for like utilizing local vendors, you know, like material? Or I just think of some of these businesses in town, you know, with the countertop businesses and stuff like that that have a local, you know, long-time footprint here. Is there something we could do to incentivize that too, so use more local vendors? And
we certainly could. I'd say for purposes of making a decision today, I would favor using this language, but it has such other factors as the board determines relevant. Okay. That could certainly be one of them. And the governance committee could go back and consider specific language to add that. But yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any further? Greg?
I don't want to be a process junkie, and I am 95% of the time in favor of providing these type of incentives. Should we have a more concentrated effort to seek public comment or input on the change in this policy? Because it is obviously new tools, as you sort of laid out, and it is it seems substantive. Should we be marketing that change in any way to seek input or feedback on this before final adoption?
I mean, we certainly could. I would say, though, that it will show up on any project where we are deviating from our standard incentive, and there'll be a public hearing on that specific application, which might be more tangible for the public to come comment on, but up to the IDA. What's the pleasure?
My inclination would be to do it on a case-by-case basis. Because I think even people who are on the IDA can't imagine all the possible permutations that would warrant an enhanced incentive. So I'm not sure that public comment would be able to do that either. I mean, if you have something concrete, as you said, Rich, it's easier for people to say yay or nay.
Is the expiring policy, was it subject to public comment?
Well, it would show up, and it was, of course, just on the energy piece. But what would go to public hearing would be, we're giving an enhanced incentive because they're meeting these stretch energy goals. And people commented on that. But I feel comfortable voting on the policy today, but I don't want to push it on anybody if you want more input.
I'm happy with a case-by-case basis, yeah.
Further comment? Are we ready to vote? Duxon?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Todd?
yes.
And the chair votes yes. So those are adopted. And we are up to chair's report. You know, I'm going to hold off. I do have some concluding comments as I fade into the sunset, but I will make them in connection with the Development Corporation Chair's report, so I have none at this moment. Staff report.
Okay, I have a few things to address today. As mentioned, we had a few committee meetings this week. Governance Committee, we already touched on that. The Housing Committee met, and we had a follow-up from the initial meeting this year and discussed the housing survey that will take place in 2026. And that is a combined effort with county planning and the IDA. As Teresa mentioned, David West is a tremendous asset to that committee, and I think is going to really help with that housing survey moving forward. One of the things to address, and this will come at a future meeting, but it was recommended from the committee that a contract be put in place between the IDA and the county planning department to issue their department with the $75,000 that the IDA committed towards that study, so that they can issue the RFP and they can manage those funds as they see fit. So we'll be working with the planning team and issue that contract in January. Additionally, the Finance and Audit Committee met, and they kicked off the audit for 2025. And Sarah has already been in communication with INA, and they'll be doing field work at the end of January. And additionally, from the Finance Committee, they recommended that County Finance Director Daryl Tuttle be allowed to move funds between the checking account and savings account to maximize interest. So obviously to earn more when that is an option. So I would open that to approval from the board. Oh, and with that, there is a memo that was handed out regarding that discussion and also what is applicable under New York state law. I did go over this with Russ and received his blessing on.
And as you can see in the memo, there's a whole host of acceptable investments. And I think there's significant direction in this memo. And what I'd look for is if somebody's willing to make a motion to grant authority to Daryl as the finance director to manage regular investment of our money pursuant to the terms of this memorandum. Deborah moves, Todd seconds. Discussion. I think this is relatively straightforward, but if anybody has questions.
Nope, just want to thank Daryl for bringing it to our attention. So.
Thank you. You're welcome.
He's done a pretty good job with our money, so.
Okay. And I'm thinking if there's anything else from the Finance Committee that we should pass on, just, we did have a discussion about check signing authority and how we're proceeding with that. Yeah. So are we ready to vote? Duxon?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So, good. Anything else, Kelly?
Just a couple. This past weekend were the 15th Annual Town Gown Awards, and the IDA was recognized as a key community partner in relation to the Community Housing Development Fund. So it was great to go and be a part of that and receive some recognition for the great work that you all do. So.
Okay.
And then in the agenda email that Ina sent out, she also included the board self-evaluation that will be due in January. So if you could review that and get that back to us, that would be great. And then I just wanted to say thank you to you, Rich and Todd, for your service on this board. It's really appreciated, and I'm going to miss you.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Okay. We have minutes from the Governance Committee, and we have board minutes from November 12th, 2025. Could I get a motion on those? Duxon moves. Deborah seconds. Questions or comments on the minutes? I'll take a hand vote on that one. All those in favor? Minutes are approved unanimously. Any other business to come before the Industrial Development Agency? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? We're adjourned. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Tompkins County Development Corporation for December 10th, 2025. First item of business is privilege of the floor. Is there anybody who wishes to address the Development Corporation? Seeing none, we'll proceed to any additions to the agenda. Is there anything? No. Okay. We have business. We have some guests with us to talk about the Block 14 project and to give us an update, and I'd invite you to come forward.
I am pulling it up now. Maybe.
That's where you see old Nan, new Gary, right?
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
New, former Nan.
We have a PowerPoint that Kelly's just getting together for us.
Okay. In the meantime, thanks for coming in and talking with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We can go ahead and get started maybe with the basics. There it is. Gary obviously has a longer history with this than I do. For those of you who I may not have met personally, I'm Nan Rohr. I'm the CEO of the Downtown Ithaca Alliance.
And I'm Gary Ferguson. I'm currently a private consultant working in the community.
And we're here as board members of the Local Development Corporation 2, not to be confused with the Local Development Corporation. So it is a separate nonprofit entity. And as you all are well aware, Block 14, which is a very important site in downtown, is something we've brought to you before, and you have been gracious enough to provide your support to us to be able to do a lot of the pre-development work on that site. And I think it's important just to quickly kind of go back through why this block is important. It does play a very physical and geographical location. It's an important piece of connecting the downtown core through the West State Street corridor, the assets on both ends of that spectrum, and certainly tying the neighborhoods together. That is a key piece of what we at the DIA, both previously and now, as well as with our city partners through the downtown plan and through the DRI application, this is something we continue to stress, which is the importance of tying our different assets together. There is also, obviously, as we all know, a strong need for more and more diverse housing throughout downtown, better access to usable ground floor commercial space. We all know there's a challenge in historic buildings with ground floor space, and also the ongoing creation of a viable and connected neighborhood through both physical improvements and also perceived improvements. So what we needed to be able to do as an organization is identify how we could best promote the site for redevelopment to potential developers. And before we go into that process, I just want to make sure, have I missed anything, Gary? That
is great. Let's go to the first slide.
So effectively, you can take a look at the slide itself. I won't read to you, but this is an area bound Seneca, Geneva. Thank you. I just don't, my brain just went totally blank. State and then Albany. So those parcels are broken out as you see on the screen. And effectively what we proceeded to do was that we felt it was important to first have our intentions for the site as a board be agreed to those, which included what are the possible uses, how do we treat the ground floor of the buildings, where and how do we access the site so that it is most conducive to what we're trying to achieve on the site, and then how do we enhance the overall walkability of the corridor. So that was just a small smidgen to accomplish, of course, and then in addition to that, we've met with a variety of you throughout the county, both as part of the legislature and also staff, to really discuss what we see as being next steps, and the same goes also for the city. So we did hire Holt Architects and Bose Real Estate Development Consulting to review the existing site conditions, things like ownership, floodplain considerations, zoning requirements, parking, and other pre-development considerations that help us better market the location as a viable development opportunity. So Kelly, if you want to go on to the next one.
Right.
For anybody who's really into FEMA floodplain requirements, I encourage
Well,
you to
That's
take
right.
a look.
I mean, we have a report that we've been put together, and actually this is all drawn from that report. One of the findings certainly dealt with the question of floodplain considerations. This parcel, as you probably would have expected, actually fits in part of the floodplain. The 100-year floodplain straddles the site. So it's not entirely in and not entirely out. Bottom line, if you drop to the bottom of that slide, you can see that as we've seen with a couple other projects that have come along over the last year or two, there will be some impact on developing based on those considerations that might include a foot or two of differential that would have to be considered either in architecture or in geography or a combination of both. But that's obviously relatively new due to the changes in the FEMA maps and where we are at this point as a community in dealing with mitigation.
Next up would be on the next slide, the zoning analysis. Most of it is within the Central Business District 60 or CBD 60. Northern quarter of it is in General Business District, but the entire site is, of course, located within the PUD overlay district, which is great. This was also a series of locations that were considered heavily during the downtown that the city and the DIA completed in the fall of '24. I don't know if there's anything else we really want to talk about with zoning.
When we asked Holt and their team to use this zoning as it stands today as the basis for their volumetric analyses that they did for us, recognizing that there is the possibility that a developer or someone could go back and ask for PUD consideration. But I think our instincts were, let's use the existing zoning as it stands today.
And with that, on the next...
Duxon has...
I see Duxon.
Never mind, I'll ask at the end.
Okay.
Okay.
With that, on the next slide here, you can see the permitted uses, obviously quite a range of opportunity there. And again, what we have done in the various concepts that you're going to see in a moment really took into consideration pretty much anything that could go on there, but I think we landed predominantly, obviously, with residential, ground floor retail or office commercial space.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity for uses on that particular site. Let's put it that way. It's not constrained as perhaps some other sites in the area might be.
So next slide, what we did was come up with we personally do this, of course. What Holt did for us was come up with 5 primary concepts that we evaluated. And with those, I just want to make it, very well known that these are massing or volumetric studies. These are not architectural drawings. You'll even notice that some of them seem to be, hovering over the street. That is not, part of the plan here. These are not designed as final concepts.
Keeps you out of the flood zone, though.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's a method to the madness, always. But really, just to give us an understanding as we determine, moving forward and work with you on those steps, what that really looks like. So the concepts address density, program mix, parking strategies, limited site control versus full block redevelopment. As you know, there are county parcels involved on this site, and those are still, in play and in conversation. So we really needed to be able to consider every possible opportunity. Each option includes housing units. The least of those is 56. The largest of those is 128 units. Our on-site parking options range from 25 to 120, right? So surface parking to structured parking. Retail or ground floor commercial options range anywhere from 9,300 to 33,000 square feet. So again, really a whole host of opportunity available. So with that, we can kind of run through. That's what you see there. Good. Kelly's an excellent slide operator. Reads my thoughts, right? So on the next slide, you'll see the first, which is what we call the L-shaped court. You are looking from the...
That would be the next slide, Kelly.
Yeah, sorry, the next slide. You're looking from the south, looking north and west. You're southeast, looking north and west. In that, these are using the current LDC parcels only. There is no county property included in this. There are 56 residential units, 9,300 square feet of ground floor commercial, 25 to 30 spaces on grade under the building, and a 5-story podium with a courtyard design possible. I don't know, Gary, if we want to address any more.
No, that's fine. Holt did show a potential parking garage on the Seneca Street side where the county property is, but the L is the green and is the piece closest to Nan and I. Yeah, on the left-hand side of the slide.
So the next slide is L-shape, no court, but with a garage. And this is where the structured parking comes in on the Seneca Street
That would
side.
be the next slide. Yeah.
Sorry, next.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
You're
Yep.
on it.
So the white in the back would be a parking garage.
Yep, that grayish white is the parking garage right along Seneca Street.
Okay.
This one retains the county's Office of the Aging, but it requires use of the Seneca parcel to build that structured parking. This is also 56 residential units, 9,300 square feet of ground floor commercial, 100 to 120 spaces on grade and structured parking. And the parking structure, as we mentioned, is along the Seneca Street corridor, directly across from the short stop if anybody needs additional orienteering.
Okay.
The next one is we're calling the U-shape with a garage. This would require acquisition of both the County Office of the Aging and the Seneca parcel for parking. It includes 88 residential units, upwards to 32,400 square feet of ground floor commercial, 120 spaces on grade and structured, and what we are considering a much more efficient use of the southwest corner for this site. The next one is U-shape with no garage. This also requires acquisition of the County Office of the Aging, but not necessarily purchase of the Seneca Street lot. It can remain in county control. 96 housing units, 18,000 square feet of ground floor commercial, 40 spaces, and an entire block except Seneca lot would be available for redevelopment. That's no garage. And then the final is the entire block, AKA the donut, because everybody loves donuts. Full block acquisition, including both County of the Aging building and the Seneca lot. This would encompass 128 residential units, up to 33,000 square feet of ground floor commercial. 40 spaces, parking spaces. Additional demand would need to be addressed with that number of units and ground floor commercial, but it does maximize the density and it would be the highest usage for commercial and retail. So with that, the parking study, Gary, if you want to speak to that at all?
Sure. I mean, Holt did some detailed parking work for us. This slide basically shows that not only would there be a need to deal with the existing spaces that are being used on the block today, but other uses will generate parking demand as well. And what this just lays out is that, depending on the use, the particular parking requirements will vary. So that's been factored into some of their calculations as well. And then also one of the things that they did do is they did an in-depth inventory of spaces in the immediate area surrounding this particular block, and that's reported on in the report that we have. That will go into much more detail about what options might be available for developers and the best way to satisfy needs and based on the project and based on the real estate that's being used.
the next slide, just to kind of quickly go through the report highlights, there are multiple development paths obviously available, and it's, it's no small feat to be able to say, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could put half of this and portion of that. So there's obviously still a variety of opportunity available for the site, and we wanted to specifically give ideas without dictating what specifically could or should go on that site. But really, obviously, the market will demand certain things, and we need to leave that to the experts in the development field to determine what they are capable of doing on that site. The residential scenarios, as we mentioned, a minimum probably of around 56 units and upwards to 128, and parking options, depending on how that pie gets sliced, can go anywhere from 25 to 120 spaces. We did also really discuss the fact in the report that there's an astonishing amount of nearby off-site parking. As Gary just mentioned, with the parking study itself, there really is a need to consider how much is needed for the site, but then also how much is available in the immediate vicinity. And then we also feel that with the retail commercial options ranging from those, vast sizes, that obviously the market will dictate that, obviously, but also depending on if there is a use that a developer would identify, something like a bowling alley that would need more space, or if you had another larger scale retailer that wanted to go into that space, then they could, have those discussions ahead of time. Really, for us, what we're trying to ensure is that there would be a generation of existing uses that would continue to pull people westward or from westward to eastward along those blocks to continue to generate interest throughout the corridor.
I guess I'm prepared to be surprised or maybe even shocked. The additional parking, is that on-street parking or is it?
Both on-street and lots.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's I have to look how many blocks they went out. I think they went out 2 or 3 blocks from that location and counted spaces. And identified them on a map but that's part of that report.
Part of that.
Yeah.
There it goes.
Thanks.
So as far as the next steps, just so you all are aware, we are working on a continued option agreement with the private landowner. We will obviously continue to have discussion with those of you from the county about including the projects for a future project. And our next in all of Gary's and my copious amounts of spare time, we need to create a public solicitation for expressions of interest from the development community at large with, again, a variety of options that they can respond to. And there will be, kind of that's our next step in getting that far and wide.
Part of the next step in talking to the county actually is trying to finalize a meeting with Greg and Randy that we've been trying to find a date on that we can land on, and that will be sort of step one of going forward and having further discussions. But Greg and Randy have sort of been designated as liaisons, and we wanted to share more detail way beyond this with you guys and have some discussions about your thoughts moving forward as well.
Yeah, Deborah.
Yeah, I kind of like the option of a parking garage, and I will tell you why. I know that there's street parking all around, but the city's about to charge you to park 24/7, 365 on the streets.
Not 24/7, Saturdays.
Just Saturdays, not Sundays.
Which one?
Well,
This one?
Okay, 6 days a week, people have to pay to park. And I know that we have struggled as part of our consideration of a downtown center of government with the shortage of parking. And there are no good options. So if you could add one, that would be a huge service to the community. My thought.
Parking always remains one of the biggest challenges in any downtown, for sure. And, as part of my conversations with the city about their implementation of new parking costs and regulations is really evaluating what is already happening on the streets. Do we need as many loading zones as we have? Could those be converted to on-street parking spaces? If we're looking at bike lanes, how does that impact parking spaces? Really taking a comprehensive look at how our parking, not just saying, you know, as with anything, if you fix one thing, the butterfly effect ultimately might unfix something else. So we need to be a little more comprehensive as we're looking at the parking situation.
One of the things we asked, one of the things Holt did that was really important was trying to understand if you wanted to place a garage on this site, could it work? Because while all the various parcels are relatively small individually, when you put them together, you get about, I forget, there was an acre and a quarter, maybe max. So that's okay. It's not a great size, but it's but it begs the question: what kind of parking possibilities actually existed? And so one of the things that they actually did was plan out and plot how a normal parking garage, kind of a double-loaded parking garage, would work, and that's sort of what you see here. Now they did the same thing for residential as well, so they had sort of double-loaded corridors as well, so you can kind of figure out how will housing fit on a site. One of the things you can't have is you can't have housing that's so deep that you can't, that the inside units won't make sense. So how do you organize housing on a site like that? And part of their explorations here is to help figure out what's real, what's not real, what's possible, and so that's why we have scenarios like this.
Okay, Greg.
Thank you, and again, apologies for the bringing some of the county folks together with the center government project and some other considerations.
No, we understand.
Timing has, as much as I'd like to multitask on some things, these type of projects consume a little bit more time and energy, but we'll definitely get back to you for sure. And it'll be, dependent on the sort of the will of the legislature in the new year, most likely.
Right.
One of the things I'm concerned about is again, I think we need more housing, right? And any way we can get more housing is a good thing, I think, for our community. The challenge I have is the large amount of first floor retail and commercial that creates, that then can oftentimes sit for a very long time and go vacant. Because of maybe floodplain elevations or changes where you would have to build a building up, where you could create some sort of stoop or something like that, would be looking at ground floor units possible. I know that that's maybe not in zoning considerations in their current form, but it would be great if there was an aesthetically pleasing, neighborhood-centric sort of way to not have so much first floor retail, because if you look, you've got about, 30,000 square feet of office and retail on the Commons currently vacant in Herald Square and other places. So I'm concerned about this push for first floor retail, and if there were opportunity to minimize that while maximizing housing units, that would personally be, my preference.
Right. Two thoughts. One would be, keep in mind that as the floodplain, because the floodplain kind of meanders through that site, there's 4 block faces. Some of those block faces will be elevated, some will not. The ones that not might be more likely, more easily adaptable for retail. The ones that are elevated might have more problems. Yep. So there's one built-in sort of perhaps lever that might come into play. The other thing is we've been pretty careful, I think, to say that this is just not retail. It's retail and commercial of any sort. And that commercial could be anything from a daycare, child care center, to anything else that fits the need for ground floor space or lower level space. I think
there's mitigations.
A developer will be I'm sure will be very careful in understanding what their capabilities are or not in terms of what type of retail they could deliver at that location. We would hope there would be some, but to your point, we're looking at this with rose-colored glasses and saying, oh my God, this is going to be the next mini mall.
Yeah.
Not likely to be the case.
I think it's important to note, too, one of the conversations that we had was really about what does and doesn't draw someone down a block. It doesn't have to be, fancy blingy signs for the hottest new retailer. It can also be public art. It can be an inviting park space. It can be some other type of usage that draws you down. And I think first and foremost, what we want to avoid is blank corners, right, that are either sheer walls of, no windows, et cetera, or that are, garage entrances or surface parking lots are the death of every corner. So we definitely want to avoid those wherever possible. So I think, know that we've had these conversations too, where we're like, oh, do we maybe just put in a little pocket park on the corner where the building is back a little bit and there's some sort of public art or, interactive piece there that people can engage with as well. So I hear you. The other piece I would just quickly mention, which I'm happy to talk about another time, would be the retail study and strategy that we're wrapping up with the city over the next several weeks. That really has a handful of different pieces that we're looking at, including how are we interacting with the development team, the various developers and the various existing owners, but also what retailers are we out there recruiting, both regionally, locally, and nationally.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Duxon.
I'm very empathetic to what Greg is saying, but you do have on your LDC2 board someone who has been more successful at filling, his vacancies than everyone else. Thanks for these renders. I want to caveat what I'm about to say, that I'm only one member of an 11-person board, common council, which includes the mayor. So I'm not speaking for everybody. That said, I think that, even with the impending change, the new council next year, it's going to be one of the friendliest councils I've seen towards a PUD and the flexibility that gives you. And so when this came before the Development Corporation, it was sold to us as a transformational opportunity because you'd have most or all of an entire city block, which doesn't happen very often. And so I think to constrain yourself to existing zoning limits the creativity and the opportunity. And you're going to be limited by the fact that part of it is in the floodplain, so you have to elevate the building. At the very least, you might need a variance just to even stay within zoning. But I would encourage you to throw it all away, and obviously not go crazy because the community will have input on it too, and they'll have certain expectations of what they want to see downtown. But that said, I would strongly encourage you to look beyond zoning and come up with something that really fits the community's desires and even the things that they don't even know that they desire, because I'm happy to go to bat for a project that really contributes to the community, not in the traditional way. A lot of the previous PUDs have had like affordable housing as their main community benefit, and by all means that's extremely important, and we do need more housing, but to the extent that you or the community, as you gather feedback, comes up with other unaddressed community needs, I think council will back you. And so think creatively. With regard to parking requirements, again, I can't speak for everyone, but we are on the path to eliminate all minimum parking requirements in the city over the next year. And so I wouldn't even put that into your consideration too. If you want parking, and this is what we've always had to teach people when we talk about removing parking minimums, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to build parking. I think it would be great if you can cost it out and fit it on the property to have a garage, just to supplement our public parking with private parking. So I'm not opposed to parking by any means, but don't worry about the non-CBD portions of the lot and what requirements are there right now, because they're likely to disappear. But overall, I'm very excited about this, and I appreciate your work on this.
Thanks. Thank you, Duxon. I think, too, just from a developer standpoint, most of them are not itching to have to build parking structures. They are not cheap to build, and they are not cheap to maintain, as we know from our existing public structures. So I appreciate your telling us that. And I think, too, what we at the LDC2 board were really looking to do was, here's the minimum that you're allowed to do. There are certainly, we didn't want to necessarily be the ones out there pushing, go hog wild and see what else you can get approved. But I think we'll have a lot of good response and very interesting response to what we put out there, and we're looking forward to being able to take that next step with you all as well.
Okay. Other committee members? I might jump in with a comment then. I thought this was pretty exciting. You know, I mean, we appreciate all the work that went into this. I like the different scenarios. I sure hope the county looks at this. I was surprised there was a lot of really strong feeling about we must maintain that property, county-owned, in its current condition there. And I hope that can be tempered a bit and we can think more creatively on the county side, because using the whole block, there's some remarkable things you could do here. And you look at its current usage right now and what it could be and the improvements to the tax base. I mean, we talked about the housing, but just having that sort of economic development project going there would probably have impacts all up and down State Street there. It really would be, you know, you hesitate to use the word transformational, but it really could be. It could do something dramatic. I do kind of agree with Deborah, parking. I know how expensive and difficult it is, but you know, it is very frustrating.
It would be transformational.
Yeah, well, it is very frustrating to try to get into the downtown core and not be able to park somewhere. So, but what are the next steps you'd look for from the IDA on the Block 14 project?
Well, we wanted to brief you with what we've done. We will share with you a summary version of the report. We have a much more extended version that will at some point make available to developers and to, you know, as we get further along in the process. But Holt has put together a summary version, which we can get you an email. We can email you. We can get a copy that we can have you get out to folks, which we now have. Beyond that, I think the next steps are to have our discussions with the county, with the county liaisons, and then based on that, I think figuring out what discussions we want to have with the county proper, and that will determine for us which pathway we want to follow in terms of putting out some sort of a solicitation for developer interest. And I think we can be we'd love to be as broad-based as we can, but I think we also we don't want to lead people down paths that don't exist. So we want to be, you know, we want to be clear, and we want to make sure that, you know, we're saying things that are accurate and are sustainable. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Anything further? Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this with us. This is good news. Okay. Moving on the agenda, Chair's report. And I do want to take a minute just to say thank you to everybody. It's been very nice to hear the kind words people have shared with me, but this has been a privilege, and it's been really fun. Sometimes it hasn't been fun, but most of the time, you know, this has been a great group to work with, and I feel like over the time I've been on the IDA and the Development Corporation, we've done some things that have really helped our community. You know, you look at the difference in how particularly our downtown core looks. The IDA played a significant role in making that happen. And all of the things that come with it, you know, energy efficiency, jobs, you know, housing, business activity, you know, and the help we've been able to provide to local community groups as a result of the work we've done, like daycare centers in the pandemic, when we stepped up and helped them with their HVAC systems in a big hurry so that they could reopen. That, you know, that was the IDA and the Development Corporation in action. As I said, it's been a privilege, and the team, you know, Kurt is right. The IAED team that helps us really has been there for us and made things happen, and it's great. Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kurt. and it's been wonderful to work with you. And Duxon, Deborah, Jerry, Greg, Todd, and Jeff, who couldn't make it today. Thank you. It's, you know, I feel like this has been a good collegial group. We've had good discussions. I think we've made good reasoned decisions. And, you know, in those cases where we've had some real criticism from the public, I think we've taken it to heart when it had merit. And I think we've continued to improve our policies and procedures and really try to operate this IDA in a first-class way. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Deborah.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Rich. This has been an interesting learning experience. I've learned a lot from you. I will miss your leadership. You've been a great champion for the IDA projects and promoting them to the public, and you've been a sterling leader of this board, so thank you. I know you'll be riding off into the sunset with Teresa Alt. I wish the two of you every happiness.
I'll be back for my 3 minutes. Yes. Todd.
Yeah, with what Rich said there, I'd like to thank everybody too. It's been an honor to serve with everybody and with this committee and represent labor here. You know, I've seen a lot of changes. I remember being in the, you know, being one of the people coming here complaining before, you know, and you see things differently. Yeah, you see things differently, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, and you realize all the good work everybody does here and all the pieces of the puzzle. It's an eye opener. And Russ, thank you, you know, for the stuff you did too, you know, with the Prompt Payment Act language, going through that and coming up with something for us. And everybody with the local labor policy. I mean, it's some great stuff the board's made, you know, in favor of the local community. And it's not, I think it adds a lot of transparency to stuff too. You know, you always hear all the people putting down the IDA committees and being a part of this, you know, it just makes you realize how these assumptions aren't always correct. You know, people make assumptions on stuff because they're not involved. And thank you, everybody.
Yeah. And Todd, thank you for reminding me. Russ, thank you too. I didn't name you by name, but you're part of the team. So you're on mute.
He's still on mute.
You're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I just was just saying that Kelly and I have talked to you, and if there's anything we can do to persuade whoever selects the next board members to consider you, including kidnapping, we'll consider it.
Thanks, Russ. Okay, let's keep going. We have minutes from November 12th, 2025. Could I get a motion to put them on the floor? Duxon moves, Deborah seconds. Questions or comments on the minutes? Take a hand vote on that. All those in favor? Minutes are approved. Any other business to come before the Development Corporation? Greg.
Just real quick, Rich, I don't know if you wanted to mention the reauthorization resolution that was passed in the Housing and Economic Development Committee that's coming to the full legislature, which would is asking for home rule consideration from the Assembly and Senate to increase the seats from 7 to 9 on this board as well.
Okay, is that coming to the meeting next week?
That's coming to the legislature on the 16th.
Okay.
It was not necessary to be done because of the 2-year legislative cycle that the Senate has. If they can't finish business in 1 year, it can roll over. But it was a request to have a reaffirmation of that support and direction.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn. Duxon moves, Deborah seconds. All those in favor? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rich.